Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, where I have the not-so-guilty pleasure of introducing to you, in the blue, the most creative Terran player in the world. As always, it's the Admiral. It's GuMiho. But up against him, the number one Zerg in Korea, surpassing Dark with only Cyril standing between him and the title King of the Swarm. It's the Rocky Zerg. It's Solar, a best of three. TVZ, and I have no idea what to expect from GuMiho. I know what to expect from Solar, all right? No longer Cyril's stunt double, but honestly, he's beaten him several times now. He might just be his nemesis. But Cyril isn't here. GuMiho and Solar are, and GuMiho has been all over the place lately, while Solar clearly has stabilized in order to achieve such heights. And speaking of achieving heights, I'd like to achieve the height of just a little bit more. One more like than yesterday. Jimmy, what are we? 1,189 likes on this video, on this cast. If we get that many, I'll cast another series. And I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for tuning in. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get a little bit better as the Reaper build is back in action. Well, not just three. It looks like he's going for more. 3 CCs behind GuMiho, starting things off with some Reaper aggression. And behind it, making sure he has enough macro to follow it up. And actually gonna focus on denying the third hatchery instead of trying to poke and prod and bounce the queens around, which is a safer bet. It's a much lower risk, but I'd say medium reward. Medium reward. Like getting the hatchery. Hatchery is the main production, the only production facility for Zerg. Delaying any of them can have a significant impact down the line. Of course, Solar, I don't think, is going to be too put out by that, as it's something that has become increasingly common nowadays. And he's going to know the likely follow-up is on the way. We got Marines. We got Stim. I assume at some point there'll be Combat Shield and +1, but GuMiho's going for just the 2 Rex. Tommy's got a factory behind, which means he's angling towards quick medevacs here. Gonna try to follow it up. While he might be known as a mech and a battle cruiser player, he's fully capable of going toe-to-toe with the Zerglings and Banelings with his Marines. Though, I definitely would put his chances much better if he makes it to the late game. The Marines and medevacs there to just kind of keep track of it. Eventually, the Zerglings with speed are more than enough to overrun the Reapers. You need some other way to exert map control. Some other way to keep the Zerg at bay, as otherwise they're going to expand so aggressively. I mean, lore accurately. And the creep really just... It's almost impossible once it gets going to make it recede entirely without, doing some sort of game-winning attack. And that is why so often do we see the medevacs sent out early. Units standing at the edge of the creep. A 30% plus speed bonus, more for the queens. There's nothing to sneeze at on top of the vision it provides. Now, creep itself. Now, this is key because in team games and ZVZ, which when the creeps touch, and they do touch sometimes, creeps creep, all right? Not to wax philosophical, but creep is creep. But the creep tumors, the source of the creep, is what gives vision. Technically, you could have a creep tumor right next to your opponent's creep tumor, and they never know. Okay, they might have a weird feeling about it, but they would both be able to see. Well, I guess they could see each other if there was detection, but the tumors are what give the vision. But they don't provide detection, though, as much as that might be helpful against Widow Mines, but it is weird they can't set. Not important. GuMiho holding down the watchtower, jammed into the most choke point of locations on the map, which is the very center of it. And those vision blockers make it so without an Overlord, Solar may not even realize they're there, though unlikely to lose too much to it. The medevacs are on the way, actually a little later than I expected here. But with +1 in production, and Combat Shield about to finish, GuMiho gonna put himself out there yet again. Though the creep is already pretty far out. Lair, not quite done. His Solar is focused very much on upping that drone count. 63 drones so far, going up towards 70. He's got his 4th hatchery. about to complete. It's been quiet on the Western Front for a while, but now it's time to make things a little louder. The Stim Marines, well, he picks up, gets back. Still perfect game from GuMiho thus far. Hasn't lost a single unit. Of course, he hasn't killed too much either, but already adding on some mines. Another couple medevacs headed out, bringing a handful of reinforcements to join up with those at the watchtower. If he could get a snipe on the 4th hatchery, he could very much set himself up for a game-ending push with 2-2. But that's a whole lot of Zerglings and Banelings. +1 Carib is about to complete, very helpful against the unupgraded, well, actually, wow, they're soon to be upgraded Marines. 1-1 is now done for him, and that makes a fearsome army. He's also got some Reapers in there, can mix in the grenades, gotta be a little careful, slurps up the Marines and the Reapers. And so far, GuMiho's still batting 1,000. Or 0, I'm not sure which one. No, 1,000 would make more sense. That'll change. Reaper goes down, target firing, beautiful target fire, but does end up leaving a few of the Marines behind. Gets a half dozen or so of the Banelings before they're able to close the distance, but with Baneling speed about to complete, I don't think that's going to happen again. Ooh, the mineral wall has already been taken out to prevent GuMiho from using it against him, as Zerglings don't have very much range, so walls are quite effective against them. Gunning down a whole bunch of Zerglings as they take an awkward path, trying to join up with their brothers. Unfortunate for Solar, but very fortunate for GuMiho, as he's continually able to keep this pressure on. He's got 2-2 coming up. He's got 73 SCVs back at home. He's got to be very careful not to lose a critical mass of Marines and give Solar any sort of map control back, but he's been doing a good job of staying safe while maintaining a presence. Oh! Get off my screen! Terran, simmer down. I don't... Sorry. Backed out for a moment. Oh, the Queens gonna be forced back. Already pre-scans try to deal with these tumors. Queen's a bit of an awkward situation. Yeah, I'm trying to gun some of them down, and yeah, GuMiho playing very efficiently right now, but Solar has only been slowed, not stopped. Nor has the tide reversed. There's already an infestation pit on the way. The rest of the Terran army trying to outflank the Zerg. A bold proposition indeed. The Queen's under fire, literally and figuratively, as the Hellbats lead the charge. But they're mostly exhausted here. More Banelings rolling in, and another clutch of Zerglings from the north side, looking for the surround. But of course, Marines with medevacs to back them up are quite cost-effective. GuMiho is driven back, but not entirely driven out. A good fight for Solar. He's able to maintain a 30 supply lead, though a lot of that is in production during it. He evens out the units lost. And GuMiho loses 50-something Marines, most of them in that last fight. It looked okay, but Solar, it's very hard to judge in the moment. We're so used to watching players like Clem, like Cure even, Beyond, Maru, pick up or pull back at that last moment to get the most ridiculously cost-effective fight. And GuMiho did great, but it wasn't good enough to push through. And he lost a few more Marines to each of the Banelings, each of the Zerglings. Well, maybe not individual Zerglings. And ends up now in a very tenuous spot, as Solar is not quite, but almost maxed out. He's finishing up a hive. He's got 5 bases. He's got 80 drones. And while GuMiho may have 80 workers himself, he still has a lot of Zerg to get through. And he's added on a whole bunch of Widow Mines, which often can help with that. But no Ghost Academy yet. Oh, Fungal on the money, and the Banelings roll up and cash in. Oh, the first infester pays dividends. Though a Widow Mine gets 11 Zerglings in turn. Lurker Den, a few Widow Mines scattered throughout the field. The just kind of almost randomly placed mines do seem to have the most success, as it's incredibly difficult for the Zerg to anticipate. I mean, that's kind of the whole intent. It's in the name, the mine. If you expect them, they're not nearly as effective. Ghost Academy. Now, this is why GuMiho is a top-tier Terran. It's not his perfect Marine micro, or necessarily his early timings. He is so ready to get the right army for the job. He's got a Ghost Academy. He's got double tank production, +1 mech weapons, double Liberator, while going for 3/3 bio. He's not abandoning the Marines and Marauders. He's complimenting them. You look nice today. And also, here's a few Liberators. Medevacs pick up. Trying to keep tabs, but Solar is starting to burst at the seams here. And it seems like he's going to be bursting towards GuMiho's base. A bunch of Banelings, Hydra slithering across. Does he have Hydra speed? Yes, he's got both the upgrades. 2/2's done and Adrenal Glands is about to complete. But GuMiho is maxed out. He's got a planetary to the north. And he has the Liberators ready to go. Lurkers have joined the field. Will burrow. They'll be revealed before being part of a fight. This is very important for GuMiho to have any sort of preparation, because otherwise, that first fight could spiral out of control into disaster. GuMiho, though, wow, confidently holding with that Terran army. I'm surprised he didn't pull back immediately, but he knows where the Lurkers are. As long as he stays just slightly out of reach, should be okay for now. But Solar, he now has the rich Vespine Geyser. Over to the left side. He's about to have the gold base over to the right. And, well, a healthy start so far. We don't mind taking out. Someone has money in the bank. We're just going straight up to a brawl here. Neither side really messing around with the pre-200 supply fights. Yeah, GuMiho, like 10, 12,000 resource this stage. Nothing to sneeze at, but definitely not much compared to the current size of the armies, which are worth 67.29 and 58.28 respectively. Solar's army is quite advanced for this stage, and GuMiho's going to have to play near perfect to be able to compete with it. This is another scenario that I think is it's a bit misleading to watch someone like Clem or Beyond fight against the Lurkers, as it does not take much for things to go sideways. And even for them, the struggle is real. Sometimes it just goes horribly wrong, and by the time you're able to replenish your army, you've lost 2-3 bases at the least. But GuMiho's maxed out. He only has 2 ghosts, 6 tanks, 4 liberators, and then the rest is filled in with bio. That is an interesting... Try to go through the choke point. GuMiho does have those sensor towers. Liberator is covering the watchtower. Wow, that's brutal. Another army over to the right. This map just getting sliced in half. With almost no preamble. Another base down. And by another, I mean the very first hatchery. In fact, the first building of the game. Changelings obliterated. Nidus to the north at the most contested part of the map. GuMiho is going to want to take that northern base. And right now, he seems content to sit back. He's got medevacs with 20 supply units in him as well. The Nidus comes out. I'm sure GuMiho frantically checking, making sure it isn't anywhere nearby. No, it's over to the left. Here comes Solar. No Vipers with the army composition. So that means it's actually... It gets an EMP, yeah, without the Vipers to help deal with the siege tanks on the low ground. Yeah, that's a tough proposition there. Even with a few infestors. GuMiho finds a beautiful fight. Solar's going to be able to replace, but certainly not an ideal maneuver. The Marines dropping out, another Nidus over to the right flank. And the Bio army finding an angle here. More Banelings rolling in, though. Bio's starting to melt. GuMiho losing track of some of it, and Solar comes streaming across the map yet again. How many Zerglings on the field? 80 or so of them. He built a Viper this time around. Dropping out the army. Trying to dodge the Banelings immediately. The Ghost actually able to tank it pretty well. And again, GuMiho will force Solar back. But look at the minerals. GuMiho is almost out of money. Whereas Solar is sitting with 6,000 minerals and 4,000 gas. And GuMiho doesn't have all the bases on his side of the map. Oh, good splits, good stim. Takes out the lurkers. Hydras and Lings a little bit late to the party. And it is not better to be late than never. If you're late, you might as well move on and try again, as you're going to get gunned down in turn. They're not going to run out of ammo. 6,700. Solar is willing to lose most of his army as long as he makes a dent in GuMiho's. It's going to look painful. Throws the EMP out. I'm not even sure why. Baneling's rolling in, getting a lot of the ghosts, surprisingly so. But not enough to really... Oh, if he gets another round of ghosts. Here come the medevacs. Actually forced back. Loses another one. The Baneling's rolling in. Finally gets a split off, but GuMiho barely shooting with anything during this fight. He's running away, which does not increase your DPS by much. And a bunch more ghosts will go down. 13 of them so far. Some of the ghosts will cloak. Hydra's just going to work, slaughtering SCVs. GuMiho down to 56, under 150 supply. Solar still has plenty in the bank. He doesn't have the larva. Solar, with 8 hatcheries, adding another one, doesn't have the larva to maintain unit production. He only has 6 larvae right now. He's spending so much on Zerglings, he's not able to consistently spend it all. Gonna need 6 or 7 more macro hatches at this rate, even with injects. His income is incredible at the moment. Over double that of GuMiho in minerals, though comparable on gas. GuMiho has 8 orbital commands and 3 planetary, so double-digit command centers. GuMiho has a lot of work to do if he wants to weather this. More Banelings are rolling in. A notable lack of Vipers in any of these fights. A Fungal comes through, but the Ghost still firing, gets a snipe off. And Solar, well, it's been close enough so far. Ooh, very lucky for those infestors. There's the one Viper, lines up some snipes. Baneling's rolling in. Parasitic Bomb easily quarantines the medevac. Solar has so much of the map right now. He's gotten both corners. He's going for the bingo strat. But he doesn't have the larva to remax out. How many queens? Where are the queens? Get back to work. Your real job. You inject the hatch. Now that's just great. GuMiho, that Solar did not have the Vipers with the fight. You need the Vipers to start to whittle down the medevacs, to be able to pull out things like, well, occasionally you'll see him pull out things like Ghosts, but at least the siege tanks and liberators. But GuMiho's mass ghost army is now quite a spooky proposition for Solar to deal with. As ghost busting is not the easiest thing to accomplish. There's 19 ghosts on the field. He's killed 14 so far. That Solar still not able to lay down, and he's starting to dry up. The main is gone. The natural is running out of minerals, soon to be running out of gas. Of course, GuMiho's running out of money as well, but he has the better... You guys gotta lay off the stems. Oh my god. I think Solar... Did he get a Greater Spire? He got a Spire, but he hasn't made his Spire great again. He's at risk right now of getting stuck on this kind of mass swarm Zerg that gets countered by the endgame Terran. The kind of Zerg that works great right up until your opponent's army is essentially just ghosts. In which case, Broodlords, well, Broodlords, Infestors, and Vipers. Oh, certainly not flying your Viper into turrets and then losing your Infestors to the same turrets and siege tanks behind. But GuMiho, a bit sloppy as well. A bunch of the ghosts, you hear their screams, their death rattles resonating surprisingly loudly throughout the battlefield. So GuMiho actually loses a lot in that fight, despite killing so much of Solar's. Another 10 ghosts went down. And the command center as well, but the command center, he has enough commands. He's got enough commands. He's down to 7 orbitals. Solar does have to break this. In fact, I think GuMiho has walled off some of his siege tanks here. But this is the stage that I said GuMiho. I give his a lot better chances to him, as he's patient. He's willing to sit back and let Solar come to him. And Solar has not really... It feels like he's rushing it. Pun somewhat intended. But he keeps sending in... Well, thank you for demonstrating quite the point there. I don't think Lurkers are a unit you trade out for supply when you're building 20 Zerglings. So, Solar, he's not yet at the point of no return. But if one more fight goes in the direction the last few have, GuMiho will have the army and Solar will be unable to rebuild his. The creep is still extended across most of the map. GuMiho takes out that northern base, the one base that kind of gave Solar more on his half the map. And now, well, the siege tanks, some ridiculous choke points to deal with here. Oh, coming through the center with the Banelings. Where are the Vipers? No Vipers to speak of, or even see. The Ghosts retreating back, and Solar just loses 40 supply without even really finding a fight. A few Hellions run in, make it a little bit less lopsided. 9 Lurkers, 7 more Hydras on the way, but GuMiho more than willing to move forward. The tank spread, I can't believe it's not butter. Just beautifully spread throughout. There's only one Viper on the field right now. GuMiho, sir, please. This is private. And a nuclear missile. That Ghost is likely going to be taken down, but it will draw the Banelings in. The siege tanks are spread out throughout. Lurker's trying to come in from the north side. Siege tank find a good shot so far. And the he wanted to do it. All the Ghosts moving in. The Lurkers will burrow. The tanks that were locked in by their brother. I had a vision. I knew this day would come. Oh, shut up, Charles. Ah, yes. The tank Charles of it was a house tank. Okay. We've all had those. The tank that gets sieged up and not unsieged until it either dies or you win the game. We'll see if that ever changes. Oh my. And 4. The most I've seen from GuMiho, I believe, is 8. Ah! Times change, and so must we. That's what we've been saying for like 6 minutes. Now, a surprising resurgence of siege tanks on the field may catch Solar off guard, but Solar, seeing a severe lack of units in general, will make his way towards the gold. And GuMiho will be forced to lift. Solar holds on to this for now. The command center, quite an expensive scout, but an effective one nonetheless. Will spot everything here, but Solar is out of money. Oh no, the EMP's hit. That's it. No, wait, he's broke. Solar has run dry. And GuMiho holds the high ground. And there's nothing left. He's building Zerglings. GG, says Solar. GuMiho holds the slow grind towards victory. But 1,007 Zerglings. Oh my. An impressive number over just 25 minutes. It feels like Solar's gonna have to go back to the spawning pool and come up with something new there. As facing GuMiho in the late game, I guess got GuMiho'd. Alright, he's gonna... The Marines weren't the solution, but GuMiho so quickly worked into his late game composition, whereas Solar stayed on the same army for 15 minutes. GuMiho adapted, while the Zerg did not. Which is, you know, the role reversal. That it is not surprising, but a bit disappointing as well. It's a bit map dependent too. There's a lot of wide open maps where you can easily pin down the 4th or 5th base of the Terran. And that isn't one of them. Well, as you get to the sides, it gets a little easier to attack, but there are a lot of high grounds and choke points that GuMiho knows all of. He's not going to let you get away without a geography lesson. And I notice, yet again, this is not the first time this has happened in a GuMiho game. Once the units that were stuck in the main, the Mech Reserve, actually made it onto the field, is when victory was attained. The sheer number of siege tanks kind of... you get used to a certain, like, pacing of reinforcements. For both sides. And when 4 or more siege tanks just kind of show up to the fight after you've been going back and forth for 5 minutes, well, that certainly changes the equation. And also explains why it might have felt like Solar could really get anything done. But he's trying something new. He goes for the Zerglings to the north side. And by that, okay. Making Zerglings is clearly not a new strategy. He made over 1,000 of them last game. He lost the vast majority. And the rest would have died too if the game kept going. Let us just... Oh, probably not, though. Probably not. But, pool first into speed here. Though, clearly waiting for something to happen. Oh, so GuMiho, how does he know? Did he see this? I wasn't watching closely enough. He didn't see the hatchery. Is he just playing it super safe? He's going double gas behind. Either he knows Solar that well, or there's 2 factory build. Only has 1 weakness, and that weakness is a handful of Zerglings attacking before he actually has any units. Oh my god, the timing. Oh, he's got to sit down. Sit down! Okay. Oh god. That could have been a game-winning move for the Zerglings. If you're able to delay the factory from landing on the... And it's a risky one as well. If he was able to delay it, that may have been... it probably doesn't win the game, right? But it stalls production so much that Solar's easily able to overtake. He's getting Overlord speed, which means he has no idea what he's dealing with, and he's willing to spend enough gas to find out. It's quite an investment. Is it a battlecruiser? Knowing whether or not it's a battlecruiser build is a huge deal. As having to build multiple queens, spore crawler. Well, you're going to build the queens anyway. Spore crawlers, and probably multiple spores. Unfortunately, Overlord speed is not particularly cheap. It not only costs 100, but it also denies you the ability to build a queen at that hatchery at that time. So GuMiho's searching for Ovies, but well, the Ovies will be found. Now the question is, oh no! Well, he got in pretty far. He actually gets out. Does he know it's a full-on Cyclone build? I think he has his suspicions at this point. He didn't see the second factory, but I don't think that changes the respect. He's just going to go across. He's got his Barracks Lord on the way. Lord Rax of the Terran domain. Well, the Queens, once the Cyclones have speed, they are that much more annoying to deal with, but the response is still the same. Roaches and Zerglings. Queens are able to weather the Cyclone shots for a while, but definitely better DPS than the Hellion. And the Overlord comes in and confirms this is indeed a 2-factory build. That means Solar is able to respond directly. I think the Overlord speed pays off here. Probably a smart move to go Overlord speed against GuMiho in general, as he has a penchant for spicy builds, to say the least. Especially mech-based ones. Exciting to see him return to his form, and +1 vehicle weapons is done. So the Cyclone attack uses your vehicle weapons upgrade. This is a key point, and why I think GuMiho prioritized it. Because it attacks very quickly for medium damage. So adding +1 definitely is a big DPS increase, much like Marines, who have a tendency to attack quite quickly as well. Unfortunately, you can't stim Cyclones. Maybe next patch. Factories. Zerglings at the back. Not going to be able to stab through. Solar's at 66 drones. He's already got an infestation pit on the way. I think he's read this right. He knows he's dealing with the Hell Clones. One Infester. Unlike against Marines, which are going to get actively healed by medevacs behind and generally are not that costly. Against the Cyclones, one good fungal, or just getting Vipers, could definitely turn the tides here. I'm interested to see what he does with that infestation pit outside of Hive. Yeah, there's 2 Infestors there. Already siege tanks on the way for Gumi, as working towards a more stable mid-game than run around with Cyclone. No, that is doing well enough so far. Gets a grenade. Very dramatic ending for many of those. And the siege tanks. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Where did those Hellbats come from? And why are they Hellbats? I think he just selected all his Hellbats and transformed them, even if some of them are on the other side of the map. Or not too far out, at least. Well, Solar losing a lot more roaches than he bargained for. I don't think he was expecting the siege tank transition quite yet. And that means GuMiho might have an opportunity with +2 attack to move out. He's getting a 4th command center, though. No additional production. 5 racks. Sorry. Reflex. 5 factories already online. Oh, a couple Hellions. Do they have Blue Flame? They don't, but actually gonna get a great scout here. Splits them, just in case of a fungal. I don't think he's gonna fungal for that. But seeing the Spire there? Oh, I think he meant to get Blue Flame and didn't realize. As he's adding it now. I've nearly done. The Barracks Lord. Still. Wandering around. Not hidden. Just tough to kill. GuMiho. Gonna try to find a timing before Hive. He's got +2 done. He's got a solid mech army here. Still vulnerable to getting caught out of position, but there's a greater Spider on the way immediately. But GuMiho has a lot of dangerous units. Ooh, one good fungal. Still, definitely a deadly option. GuMiho's moving up. The siege tank spread. Decent fungal. Softens up a lot of the Hellbats. But with nothing to follow it up, the fungal itself just isn't that much damage. The siege tanks continuing to push forward. So many roaches and zerglings going down as the Cyclones continue to pound the point home. The hatchery will fall. No? Yeah. Throws out another fungal. Continues to chew through. He may try to save it. Okay, alright. There it goes. Corrosive Biles knock out another one. Are there any Vipers on the field? Just one. The GuMiho getting a bit stalled out by the Roach Ravager. Does have +1 attack. GuMiho working on just weapons upgrades. Relying on keeping those units at maximum range. Greater Spire about to complete, but no Corruptors with which to build Broodlord, so not going to be factoring in quite yet. 3 more factories on the way. And the tank's not quite sieged here. Corrosive Bile dodged by the speed clones. More siege tanks on the back line. Adrenal gland's nearly done. And by nearly, I mean very done. Trying to retake a hatchery in the center of the map seems a bit optimistic here. The Hell Clones. This is one of the first and only pure mech sort of styles we've seen since the new patch, which is growing older now. Let's see. What grows about? The Broodlords are tough to contend with. Even the new ones, which Broodlings have less HP, but your siege tanks will get used against you. If they're in the wrong spot at the wrong time, the Broodlords will rain down the Broodlings, and the siege tanks don't care what they're shooting at or what's nearby it, rather. Roach Ravagers. Cyclones on their own, not so great against this, but gets underneath and actually snipes off one Broodlord. GuMiho does need a bit more of a direct response, though. The Broodlord is chasing down. Get a couple of the siege tanks. 4 Thors in production now. Only 9 Cyclones left on the map. Loxon takes out the hatch. GuMiho looking to take a 5th base. Solar still holding on 4. He's always had a 4th base to fall back to. A very important part of this. Oh no, Gumi, no! Oh, it's not the end of the world, but it certainly doesn't help. Losing 20-30 supply of Cyclones. And Hellions over there. He needed those to buffer for his Thors. The Thors are going to be great against the Broodlords, but there's so many Roaches and Zerglings underneath. They're going to have a tough time closing the distance. Yanks in one, gets a second from the grave as the Viper died throughout it. The high-impact Thor is doing terrible, terrible damage to the Broods. But without the buffer here, it looks like this is going to go from tenuous to terrible. Oh, no. And GG just like that. The Mech army is so brittle at the end of the day. You really need something in front. This is why Marines are such a key choice so much of the time. Not because they're so good on attack, but they get in the way. I mean, they're very good on attack as well, but that's so tough. As clearly headed the wrong direction. One misclick for a few seconds. And let us not say that GuMiho would have won those units. But certainly it becomes a lot more competitive with another 20-30 supply. Solar pressed the advantage immediately. It was already headed towards a counterattack, and it just strengthened it dramatically. And that means we're all tied up. GuMiho not able to make it happen. We'll see what he falls back to in Game 3. But a pretty solid series thus far. Good to see something a little different. We'll see here, though, on Hecate. Is that a command center first? Bold. Possibly foolish, but bold. I wanted that to play out a little further. It's just there's so many weak points with Mech. This is why Mech is usually... It comes in to complement the Bio Army, as opposed to being a choice in and of itself. Because the overhead cost of Mech, in order to get the factories, they're 100 gas apiece. In order to make Cyclones and Hellions really particularly useful, they need upgrades. Whether they're basic upgrades, or speed, or smart servos, or blue flame. So those all cost gas as well, and you're already looking at about 1,000 gas before you really get much unit production of productive units in the first place. Whereas barracks cost 0 gas. Marines cost 0. And you can slap on a lot more reactors safely. And that, at the end of the day, is why Mech is usually... And with the nerf to the Cyclone, and I'm using the word nerf here. I know some might take... With the nerf to the Cyclone... with the nerf to its strength, which before, when used as a battle mech composition, it did a lot of... It was still a glass cannon, but it did a lot more damage. So, was more useful in that mid to late game, even though it was quite expensive in the early mid game. So, at the end of the day, though, GuMiho was still doing very well, right up until he lost his buffer, which is just not something you can easily replace, especially in the later game. Yeah, I just want to make it clear, it wasn't one small mistake. It was a significant, large mistake that certainly didn't lose the game in and of itself, but it compounded an already kind of middle-of-the-road situation and turned the momentum towards Solar dramatically. if that had been 3 medevacs of Marines, and I think the outcome would have been similar, and the effect of it. I just like thinking about Mech. It's fun to theory craft. Because Terran has almost, well, Bio is just better, and that's why we see GuMiho falling back to it. But Terran has 2 almost viable compositions. Whereas, I mean, the devil's in the details with Zerg. And Cyril is so details-oriented. El Diablo, they call him. Nowhere. They don't call him that, but I'm calling him that now, because that's a pun on devil. Alright. That was about as funny as Cyril's build orders are creative. And I'm referencing Cyril here, because Solar reminds me so much of him, except when he's busy beating him with crazy mind games. It's just this solid, inexorable, unstoppable swarm. Well, you know what? Not unstoppable, but just inevitable. So many units. GuMiho stopped him in game 1 because Solar ran out of money. Not because he had he just ran out of money. As long as the swarm can support itself, Solar will keep fighting. It's only if you can force him to go broke that he seems to crumble. We'll see if that's true here in game 3, though. I'll admit, I had plenty of time to contemplate so far in 5 minutes. We've had GuMiho shoring up his command center first into a half-hearted medevac drop, and Solar building up 3 hatcheries, now getting a lair rather on the early side. And some roaches. He's got 56 drones. Worth pointing out, that's a relatively low number to be building a significant amount of roaches on. He's looking to shut down these first medevacs, which are taking their sweet, sweet time coming together. Marines will stim in, take down an Overlord, look for some creep tumors, doesn't even get that last one, but does pick up that last Marine. 3 more racks. He loves his production lines, and I mean that literally. Oh, the Evo chambers. You were supposed to lock them out, not lock us in. It's not too bad. 5. A lot of mining time lost, but oh well. There you go. Works out this time. Yeah. A lot of mining time lost, but okay. Production 9. At least it's not the siege tanks this time, so they won't be walled in. Bit of a factorial player at heart. Infantry level 1. Completed. Combat shields done. So we're at 69 drones, so he's got a nice economy going so far. 3rd base. Orbital on the way. And that's a lot of Marines. This kind of came together more quickly than Solar was ready to deal with. 3 medevacs of Marines trading with the roaches. Gonna gun them down, pulls back, and finds a solid trade. But the Queens trying to catch him on the way out. The siege tanks kind of chilling back at home. GuMiho. Does he have an armory? No armory. It's like he's gearing up for a big, kind of quick 3-base push with all this production. There's the armory. He's kept good control of the creep. He's actually, almost gets a queen there. The transfuse is on point. They're still on creep, but the creep isn't too far outside the 4th base, which is a win overall. Hive is on the way quite quickly alongside that lurker den, so clear the trajectory that Solar wants to go with this one. The siege tanks looking to hold the bridge. And moving forward. Siege tank should be able to cover a lot of this. That's a lot of Terran. There's an infestor. Trying to get that fungal, but pretty splitting there. Plenty of medevacs. The siege tanks get into a pretty nice spot. We got Hydra upgrades completing, but not too many Hydras on the back line. And GuMiho just comes up with enough army supply that Solar feels obligated to just give up his 4th base. A scan spots the lurkers on the way already, so he knows what he's in for, and he knows that Solar is kind of bottled up on just 3 bases. He didn't start another 4th until after his 1st has already been taken out. And, oh, a few idle SCVs. I think Solar's going to help him out with that. Can't be idle if you're dead. Yikes. Well, actually, they'll be motivated to get back to work after their near-death experience. The lurkers will zone out the Marines, but over to the right flank, a medevac drop. There's enough roaches that GuMiho shouldn't be able to dims and then realizes that might have been a mistake. Picks up a drop. The production is good. GuMiho in the supply lead, as this has just been almost a perfect macro simulator here. Able to get whatever he wanted up to 3 bases, and now really using it against Solar. Solar has been quite stingy with the Vipers in this series, and still has none on the field with this many tanks heading in. No Vipers, even with lurkers. That's going to make things difficult. A double drop, even more difficult, as just Zerglings. 1-1 done for everyone involved. Adrenal glands on the way, but the Zerglings just can't find an angle. They went all the way around, able to chew through some of the Marines. The medevacs are out of energy, which means the roaches will eventually clean this up, but GuMiho maintaining the momentum. Solar's down to 68 drones. Another drop is loaded up. GuMiho says, that worked so well, let's try it again. And you know, there's nothing to really stop him from doing so. He's making some Vikings. I assume those are to deal with any potential Vipers, as at this stage, with Hive Tech done, there's no reason there shouldn't be Vipers. But Solar kind of neglecting them now. And GuMiho, I'm sure, won't neglect to take advantage of it. Oh, the tanks! The fungal on the Marines softens them up, but another drop right on top. The Queens at home, but they're not safe. Will be taken down. 2, 3 out of 3. Yes, gets all of them. And there's nothing to stop this. The tank push is well set. The lurkers are not in position to defend the base. The main dies. The spawning pool could be targeted. The roaches, a decent trade for GuMiho. Solar is crumbling from both ends right now, which sounds as uncomfortable as it looks. And, well, the Marines in the main, looking for something to kill. Fortunately for Solar, the spawning pool will not be taken out, and finally deigns to build a Viper. Moments before the Hive was taken out. His tech tree is reset to the stump here. Hatchery is all he has to work with, though thankfully he does get adrenal glands done. And Solar, despite his losses, maintains 182 supply. Oh, those medevacs, a bit of an awkward select all army. I think both players realized at the same moment. The Infestor caught out in front. Beautiful fungal, but still gets the siege. You need Vipers, but he can't build anymore. That tank line is absolutely devastating. Oh, but lurkers. Well, get to one of them. Unsiege tank still works, contrary to Bronze League heroes' belief. The Viking count is kind of surprisingly high. Oh, well, the Vikings would be more than enough to zone out any Vipers. The tanks, a good angle for Solar, but is it good enough to hold the line? The Marines are it's just not. It's just not. The supply plummets in that last fight. And GuMiho just grinds his way through in a classic Terran maneuver. Solar just not respecting the straight-up tank push there. A beautiful series from GuMiho. He faltered a bit, but Solar leaned a little too far away from the Hive tech, and GuMiho took full advantage of it. I love seeing... I hope we see more. It's just so difficult to make that mech build work, but a pretty decisive series from GuMiho this time around. Just hoping... I'm sure he hoped he could repeat that in the GSL finals, but that was a tough one. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I made your day a little bit better. It'd be awesome if you could check out Patreon or YouTube membership or any of that boring stuff. If you haven't yet noticed, I'm streaming on YouTube now. But on the second channel, which you can find in the description, Winter Gaming TV, just Winter Gaming. You can, it's the other one. Because we like to keep it focused here. And if you enjoyed the focus, well, it'd be awesome if you could like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill. We gotta stop doing it. Cut!